Have you ever heard of a little company called Palantir?
I have.
They may or may not be evil, but we're not talking about that today. Don't get excited.
We're no
anyone.
judge.
Yeah. We would never do that. Not on a Tuesday. This article is from 2020, but they were hailed in the media for having forward deployed software engineers, calling them out as like a model for a great way to work with your engineers, where we work directly at the customer. And I can't remember exactly the article I read, but it was like, you Agilists should be like lauding them for working directly with the customer, and it's closer to the roots of what y'all are looking for. And I looked at it and I said, should I be impressed?
When I first read this article, I didn't come away with the impression that this is groundbreaking stuff. That this is not anything new, but the terminology is, right? Forward deployed software engineer. You're not behind enemy lines or anything, for God's sake.
Sure.
So they've just added this kind of vernacular around it. But also the crux of it is these engineers are, again, another vernacular embedded with customers. Where was it that we've seen this before, right? In the past, where engineers would go out with the salespeople and work directly with the customers, even in the early life cycle of sales.
Don't
right?
say that on Reddit, because they were very vehement about this is not a sales engineering position. We're going to read the article and get into that. The article is on blog.palantir.com. I'll put a link in the show description. All right, so I put the article on the screen. It's called A Day in the Life of a Palantir Forward Deployed Software Engineer. It's from November 2nd, 2020. It's quite old. I mean, like, in terms of following the current trends blogosphere, it's like 15 ice ages ago.
At least.
But it starts off by saying, Brian is a forward deployed software engineer. That's me, by the way. Brian is a forward deployed software engineer at Palantir, currently focused on delivering data integration solutions to a U.S. Department of Defense customer. We sat down with Brian to learn about the FDSE role in his day-to-day life at Palantir. That's what the whole article is going to be about. So what is this role? What do these people do? Okay, you're a forward deployed software engineer. What is that? Forward deployed software engineer, FDSE, or quote Delta, is a software engineer who embeds directly with our customers to configure Palantir's existing software platforms to solve their toughest problems. While a traditional software engineer, or dev, they didn't put SWE on here. Sweet, my favorite. My favorite shortening of dev, focuses on creating a single capability that can be used for many customers. FDSEs focus on enabling many capabilities for a single customer. We are deployed across many industries and problem domains, so the breadth of projects we tackle is large and always evolving. Since joining Palantir, I've had the chance to work across cyber, healthcare, and defense. So he's a sales engineer, like a post-sales engineer? What did they used to call the people that came in after sales sold the contract, but the people that had to set them up? Because you would sell the contract, but then people would come in and have to set you up and get you functioning before they would cash a check. Is that the sales engineering team or
it was
professional services
team? Different titles. So sometimes they were called pre-sales engineers because you hadn't quite pinned the contract at that point. Sales engineers because they go out with the sales team and do this stuff. Again, not before the contract signed necessarily, but it starts before the contract signed. So maybe they'll go out to like exhibitions or conferences or whatever, set up a demo. When a customer comes in and they're interested, they engage with the customer, not at the high holistic sales level, but deeper
in their data, in their company.
So if you have technical folks in the audience that are engaging with these people, they can actually talk the same language, right? Used to be called sales engineer, right? Or pre-sales engineer, some variation thereof.
Pre-sales is before the contract is signed, and then whatever comes after pre-sales is like, good luck, kid. You're on your own. It's just professional services of which the company puts in the contract. You get a certain number of hours or months. What do they used to call it? Hypercare after the main period is over, that kind of stuff. When I was at a utility, I worked with teams from Deloitte and IBM and PwC, and there was another place. Teams from all the big consulting firms. I don't think I worked with a McKinsey team. I don't think. And they all had people like this. Oh, I'm sorry. The other one was SAP. SAP was the other one. And they embed people, like they make a sale, and that sale is like, I get like vendors like IBM and stuff like that. IBM's a bad example. Like vendors like Deloitte, they're not selling you any technology. They're selling you professional services to implement something. The SAP folks, on the other hand, they are selling you technology. Like you lease
And services. They call it solutions.
And services, and you get to basically the people that they have there on site with. You need them to be experts at their database design when they add modules and integrate their tables with your tables and tell you exactly what primary keys to go with and stuff like that. It's like you could do it on your own. You could learn to do it on your own.
It's a tough road with complex systems like SAP. So it's difficult to get there quickly without this help, which is why these companies, and SAP is a great example, they don't just sell you the software, right? They sell you a solution. So the software is part of it, but also some services are part of it, where these people are embedded, as the article says, with the customer to synthesize and customize a solution to solve the customer's specific problems. But if you look at the actual software that comes out of the box, it won't solve anybody's specific problems necessarily.
All right, let me continue with the article because it's not really a long article. Iterating closely with customers across the various industries requires a unique and broad skill set, ranging from software development to data engineering to customer engagement and creative problem solving. If this person was sitting in the room, I would like to poke and prod and say, really, tell me a little more about your data engineering that you do at this customer. Like, is it like setting up ETL pipelines and doing transforms and stuff like that at a broad, massive scale? Or are you like taking in a spreadsheet once in a while? Like, what kind of data engineering are you talking about? Like, how much of this is like sales bluster and how much is like actual real work? Okay, I need to address questions like, what products are we deploying for this use case? Why are we deploying them? How will we spin up workflows that utilize these products to address the customer's specific needs? As FDSEs, not only do we need to be able to answer these questions, but we actually implement the solution in collaboration with end users. Okay, I don't know. Nothing new there that really like shakes my...
I mean, the qualities that these people bring aren't just the technology that their company is offering or technology in general even, right? A key quality is really just listening to the customer, understanding their pain points, and then figuring out how they can be solved using a mix of technical pieces, right? Starting with your own company's technology, but then anything else that might be needed.
I mean, that sounds like a consultant with like a proprietary package of software that comes with them. So I'm a consultant and I've got a bunch of software and services like that come with me that I can draw on. I told the story when we were prepping for this episode. I used to work for a company that had this particular software package called Gateway. And Gateway was exactly what it was. It was the gateway between a bunch of external services, APIs, mailboxes, fax machines, like dozens of things, right? And you can configure this gateway service with like a million plugins. You can make it as complex as you want, but you could also make it as simple as you want. Like, hey, just monitor this email inbox, and whenever someone sends me an email, grab it and orchestrate it through the workflow pipeline of like, if it's got this, then do this. If it doesn't have that, then do whatever. This is a lot of that kind of thing. I've got this software. It's really powerful, but by itself, if you don't put any inputs and outputs,
it doesn't do anything.
It doesn't do anything. Yeah. And also, if you just put the simplest inputs and simplest outputs, you're not going to get any real leverage with the system, where if you know how to configure it, it can really relieve a lot of pressure for your users. You know?
I mean, those are very, very common back in the day, these predictive sort of workflow analysis and management type of tools. And quite a lot of it, actually, now that I think about it, was not necessarily to do with the proprietary software that a vendor brings, although that was at the center of it, but around it, there's a lot of other bits and pieces, right, that you can... Some of it was free, some of it was just other proprietary software. Like, for example, you might have needed Adobe or something like that. So this was very, very common. But it's interesting you said that sounds like a consultant, because in this article, they're refuting that.
Oh, here we go. In the next section, let's start right away. It says, is an FDSE similar to a consultant? No, not really. I think one of the things that differentiates us from consultants is how technically creative we can be while also delivering solutions quickly. In the hands... Hang on, wait.
I almost jumped in there.
Did you see the shot at consultants there? In the hands of an FDSE, Palantir's products, Foundry, and Gotham. Why is your product named Gotham? Like, really?
Batman.
The place where all the evil people live that Batman beats up? That's what you need?
Gotham City.
Does Batman live in Gotham City, or does he live in Gotham suburbs? Because I need to know these things. Like, this... Never mind.
I don't know. Okay. I don't know, but he has quick transportation. I do know that.
He does. Are ready-built playgrounds that empower us to be flexible and efficient in how we solve problems. Unlike consultants, we can pull most of the pieces together out of the box, meaning we don't need to reinvent the wheel for each customer and spend years of creating a patchwork solution. This sounds like someone who's never been a consultant.
Exactly.
Instead, we can focus on composing the right architecture of features to supercharge users. This way, I'm creating software that makes my customers more uniquely able to do their jobs.
Boy, oh boy.
There's a lot wrong with this. First of all, it doesn't sound like he's creating software. He's configuring software.
Yeah.
He's setting up software. And second of all, I don't know any consultants that don't use out-of-the-box stuff. Like, very few consultants are out there, like, truly creating custom stuff. And also, like, you can tell this article was written in 2020 because, like, consultants now are just using ChatGPTs to...
Yeah. Let's just give him the benefit of the doubt that this was pre-AI or ChatGPT. You know, there are a couple of jabs in here on consultants saying that they're not technical or necessarily have that prowess to put these things together.
I was going to say
Let's just call it what it is.
Only because I worked in consulting for a short time can I say that. Watch out with this kind of attitude. There's consultants that are out there that are going to eat your lunch, man. Careful.
Yep, agreed, absolutely. I completely disagree that this is not a consultant role. You are consulting with the customer. You yourself said you're embedded with them. Right. So what are you doing, working in a vacuum, right? You're consulting. Now, the technical aspect of it, consultants do have technical jobs, especially these ones that are putting together bits and pieces and synthesizing a tailor-made or bespoke solution to solve the customer's unique problems. I used to do that for years when I was working in the publishing sector, right? There was a core piece of software that didn't do anything much if you just took it out of the box and implemented it, because every customer had a unique circumstance with their back-end systems, the ERPs, the financial systems. So you had to do this work. And if you're not technical, you couldn't do it. Even if it meant doing things like writing scripts to make all of this work, right? Not necessarily compile code or anything like that. They would have to be updated all the time. No, this is writing scripts and training them in how you're doing it so they can be self-sustaining going forward.
Yeah. That's interesting that he left the training piece. I wonder if we're going to hit that.
He may have it in there. I don't recall it though, so we'll see.
Because I think that, we got to write that one down for a note to look back later. I'm interested if when he leaves or his assignment is over, I wonder if like the company's just out on its own. They no longer can change the Palantir products.
Probably. I mean, these guys will probably wave the change request flag, right?
Yeah.
And say buy more hours.
I wonder. I guess the business model is what I'm wondering about. I wonder how close this is to the SAP business model, where basically like they don't really encourage you to learn the table structure and change it yourself and stuff like that. They really want you to call them, and then they come in and do it. It's the same as if you ever work on a IBM Series I. Like, they don't really want you adding RAM to the box. They don't really want you, like, they want you to call them. A guy will come out with a suitcase with the RAM and put it in. Like,
this is exactly the tactic, I guess, to have the customer sign up for a maintenance contract. Right? So then they'll say, well, call us, we'll take care of it. It's covered under your maintenance, or only this much is covered. Or you go to a platinum maintenance tier, then we cover a bit more.
That doesn't shock me that they're huge with the government, because this seems like a sales pitch that would go over well for the government. Is like, you absorb no risk.
Right.
You call us when there's a problem. We'll send the man with the suitcase out, and they'll fix everything. It's all on our dime. Just like the old IBM consultants that would come out, and all the risk is on them. You don't pay anything. The SLA says we'll be out there in a certain number of hours or whatever, depending on the support tier.
Yeah. I guess the customer can rest assured that the job will be done in a timely manner, and it'll be done right because the experts are doing it.
But meanwhile, experts, and then now we change the screen over to the experts, and the experts are like a dude going like alter table, insert column. Sorry, I don't really have like any hang up with SAP or anything. It's just, I remember clearly being at a work center that like heavily used SAP, and it was just like, it was this big black box.
Yeah,
it was a big black box, and everyone treated it like, ooh, like we got to get the SAP team's time, and it was a big thing. And when I actually sat down, because that part of my career was like, I was like just coming online with like agile ways of working. I was just kind of like discovering what paths I want. Oh, what do Scrum Masters do? And what does this do? And like, what is that? What is the actual discipline of agile coaching? How can that add value and stuff like that? I was like just learning about that kind of stuff. So I was going and sitting with the SAP people when they were doing their work, just like sitting over their shoulder in the cube. Hey, don't you have something to do? I'm like, no, not really. My job is to make sure that this is done, and then go back and tell my boss or project manager or whatever that like I got the thing done, even if getting the thing done was just sitting behind the person doing the work, making sure that it was done, right? Because like I got a whole team that's blocked from testing this thing until you get the new table structure done. So no, I have nothing else to do. It was like one of those work centers with stage gates and milestones and checkboxes. And I remember sitting behind the SAP person, and they were doing basic SQL. Insert column into a table. I'm like, this is SAP? And then he was like, yeah, but you got to know what column. He had a big ERD diagram in his cube. I'm like,
just share that with.
This is not, I mean, yes, you need to coordinate who's changing tables or whatever, but anybody can do this work. This is easy. This is just SQL. Oh, Brian, it's more complicated than that. I understand. You got a million modules. You got to know what the right module is to buy because there's a lot of money involved. The CRM module does this. The natural gas module does this, whatever. I understand. But the actual technology under the hood, it's T-SQL statements, man.
Sure.
But this is different. Boy, the camera's rebelling on me when he's like, you're being too sassy. All right, fine. Let's move on. Why did you choose this role versus a traditional software engineer role? Software engineer. Sweet. He says, I chose to be a forward deployed software engineer because of the rapid cycle between creating solutions and seeing them in action. At this point, I don't know if this is anything other than like corporate propaganda that we're reading at this point. Is there anything in here that's not propaganda? The instant feedback of iterating Actually, here, let me change some words in here, Om, and let me see if it strikes you differently.
Okay.
Why did you choose to be a Scrum Master? I chose to be a Scrum Master because of the rapid cycle between creating solutions and seeing them in action. The instant feedback of iterating hand-in-hand with a customer means you can create something very impactful in a short amount of time.
Wow, I'm sold.
That works, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'll take 2 to go. Absolutely.
But when this is the funny thing about it. I did it in the episode with Ed, the extreme ownership. I'm doing it again. Maybe at this point, I guess I'm signaling to you we need to have an episode completely on like, hey, if Agile's over, big A Agile is over, like there's a path forward. Let's talk about a career counseling episode of like, let's talk about some paths forward, okay? Business leadership, entrepreneur, solopreneur, a program manager. A lot of people are jumping ship to product. A lot of the podcasters in the space are jumping to product, right? Like there's a path forward. I just took his language out with whatever they're trying to propagandize and change it, and it totally fit. So completely. I'm just saying, like, this stuff it's in the zeitgeist. It's not going away.
Sure.
But companies are seeing it, and it's like, oh, let me grab that language and add it to my vernacular. He says, I also like a unique mix of autonomy and unpredictability in the role. I'm given, oh boy, if you like that, you work at any bank. Given the opportunity to work on projects that interest me, those projects always throw unique challenges my way. I'm constantly learning and adapting. For instance, despite having no prior exposure to the cyberspace, upon joining Palantir, I was immediately thrust into a large cyber project. Oh, that has nothing, not like consulting in any way, shape, or form.
Not at all.
I had no experience in this, but they billed top dollar and threw me into this project. To get up to speed, I need to learn the ins and outs of Foundry's cyber offering and discover the particular technical challenges facing the customer, all while gaining general cyber expertise. Talk about drinking from the fire hose, ! This is corporate propaganda. I didn't realize when I started reading this, but I guess I should have.
Listen, this is no different than a software engineer who's been tasked to work on a cyber project without any prior experience. They'll be drinking from a fire hose too. This is no different. You're still learning fast on the job. I mean, how is this unique?
I think it is different than being a software engineer. Again, another episode in the making right here, which sort of lines up with vibe coding and sort of also lines up with AI.
Right.
It's different than being a software engineer because you don't get to be like Captain Kirk flying on a Starship Enterprise, coming in like telling a civilization you should be good to each other and not be a planet of mobsters or whatever, and then flying off and then never coming back and being like, hey, what's going on? How are you guys doing? Software engineering, when you're like completely greenfield, you do whatever, blue ocean, whatever you want to call it, where like you come in, you start with a blank slate, you're flying, you're programming new stuff, new fields. Oh, totally, I got this. That's a lot different than I got 500 API endpoints. Anybody could be using any of them at any moment. My database has ballooned to 90 tables.
Right.
There's no one person that knows all of them because they were added over the course of wherever. Like that's a lot different software engineering than this.
I completely agree with you. I mean, the only side of I would say that's kind of on this whatever it's called, for FDSE, you're doing all this without prior expertise. You're learning on the job in front of the customer. So it might carry a risk there of losing your credibility, right? You're supposed to be,
any consultant,
even though they say no, any consultant, absolutely. But this is that role, right? You're forward deployed with a customer you're embedded with, and now there's a risk, I believe, that where you're learning stuff, you're looking stuff up, right?
Yeah.
And if it's in front of a customer, you might run that risk.
I mean, the nice thing about consulting, usually your consulting houses, they have some sort of managerial structure. There are people you can go back to, either senior consultants or other people in the firm that you can reach out to, and there's help there. That's the nice thing about being a consultancy.
Which is exactly what he says next.
Oh, is it? Okay. So
Yeah.
Is it this, to get up to speed, I need to learn the ins and outs? Okay.
next paragraph.
He says, to meet the challenge, I leverage mentors and members of my team, spent a lot of time talking to customers who know the subject matter best, and did some independent exploration. Now, although I'm not working on cyber anymore, I still frequently contribute to cyber initiatives across the company because of my newfound experience and interests. See, what I'm interested in when I'm reading this is all in between the cracks kind of stuff. Is like, how often do you get pulled off of your customer to do something else, to go fight a fire on another customer? And then, like, I want to hear some stories about that. I'm more interested about the consultancy, the management of the internal consultancy of Palantir, which, again, I got to think under their org structure is just like operations or professional services or some kind of, I know, like, those are not vogue anymore. That's the way all companies did their software in the first 10 years of my career. It was like the COO ran all of operations, which involved all of professional services. Sales probably was a equal pillar, but sales and professional services, there probably was some kind of contention between the sales engineers and the operations engineers, the support engineers, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, I agree. It was exactly that structure back in the day. You had under operations, customer support. But smaller companies, just the ones I was a part of, as a person who went out with salespeople doing exactly what's described here in this article, I took calls in the morning. Like, I'd get to work early in the morning, about 7, put the coffee on, and then sure enough, the phone would ring because one of our customers had us on speed dial just to talk about stuff.
Yeah.
So not necessarily, talk about issues they're having or anything. Just thought, hey, I have this report. I was thinking about jazzing it up. Any suggestions? That kind of stuff. My point is, you're not done when you leave this role. You don't really leave this role in a smaller company because you don't have that handoff to a customer support department. You're always the conduit with that customer, and you're moved on to another customer. So to your point, sometimes customers will call you and say, even if they call the support hotline, they'll say, hey, can I talk to Home because he knows our system, right? So it circumvent all of this explanation about what they're doing, etc. So it's a bigger overhead on this person.
It'd be interesting if we want to take customer service and support, just what we're talking about now, offline to another podcast. I got a couple of people in mind that I could reach out to.
Sure.
That would be good for that, because this article we're reading about the forward deployed, so I forgot what this is called now. Forward deployed software engineer, right? Forward deployed software engineer. They're not really software engineers. They are engineers. I'll give them that, right? Customer support engineers, sales engineers. But I mean, like, software engineer, like I think about a software engineer.
Core software development?
I'm not convinced yet. Could be convinced that they're definitely deeply technical, and maybe a lot of them want to move into a software developer, full-time engineer role eventually. But what I'm reading in his corporate propaganda, it leads me to believe that he hasn't said anything about software engineering yet. The story you just told, where the customer calls, maybe they're a problem child, maybe they got issues or whatever, they call you, and then you scramble your team, get the team together, do whatever. There's nothing that he just outlined other than like being the single point of contact for people to like walk up to their cube and grab them. I was at a work center, one of my previous work centers, we had a team of engineers, and they tried to make sure that the senior engineers had divvied up the customers where a particular customer always got the same senior engineer. So the people that picked up the phone and tried to solve the customer's problems, like this equivalent, but in customer support, not parked at your site forever, the people that picked up the phone would try to solve the problems. They might be different people. They might not be the same person all the time. But if they couldn't figure the problem out quickly, they would escalate to a senior engineer, and then the senior engineer for that customer that called would always be the same person. So it's like what he's talking about in his position is, I'm trying to figure out if this model is any different from a model that I've seen in my previous experience And I have yet to see anything in this article other than I ship the person off and I send them to work for that customer exclusively, which is, it to me seems just to be a matter of financial. I financially can afford that as a company. Again, this is corporate propaganda, so I don't know how deep he's going to get into that kind of stuff, but like that's the stuff I would like to know. From my perspective, like from my experience in other companies, I have seen, okay, we got a big customer. I want to make sure that they always have this person who initially set them up, and every time they call, they're going to get this person. Like maybe they don't get the person initially, but it always rolls back up to this person because they know that person. Everybody knows that person at the company.
That's exactly how it was in my experience when I was doing this stuff. I'd always be alerted, hey, this is usually customer support.
Right.
They'll answer the call after I moved on to a different customer, right? Sometime later. They would answer the call and then they would tap me on the shoulder, right? We were in the office, so they'd say, have so-and-so on the phone. Would you like to, can I transfer it to you, right?
I would say you need, if I'm an executive at that company, I want some kind of system that alerts you that says like, hey, your customer called in to customer support today. Brian in customer support has him on the phone right now.
Yep.
Maybe you want to pop into customer support, or I mean, whatever, for a remote, maybe you want to dial in and just like pop in and be like, hey guys, what's going on? Everything good? I would want to proactively alert you that we're talking to your customer. But again, from my experience, this seems like a lot of other models I've seen, just not called this specific forward deployed software engineer.
I agree with that. It goes far enough in history for me where the executives at my company would occasionally, not always, but occasionally say, this customer is important. We need to really take good care of them. So give them your SkyTel pager number. That's how back it goes. SkyTel pagers, and they would call, and I would give one customer a code. When you page me with 999. Then I know it's an emergency. Email me or page me with ones, something like that. And you could do that different numbers and things for different customers. But yeah, I mean, every customer wants to feel like they're talking to the one person they know who knows their environment and their configuration.
All right, let's try to skim as much as we can. He says, what's a typical day in life for you? He says, I work remotely. I'm working on a project for one of our DoD customers where I'm creating new functionality on top of our Gotham platform. That's right, our Gotham platform. Typically, a chunk of my day is spent designing, writing, and testing workflows. Oh, so similar to my gateway product I was talking about.
That's exactly right. So he's not writing or developing new code as a software engineer would, right?
Another portion is spent configuring Gotham to unlock new functionality within the platform. This could involve configuring new data models or working on stability improvements and upgrades. I also reserve some time each day for comms, emails, meetings, and staff overhead. It's called overhead. Yeah. I generally try to limit the time I spent in meetings by asking myself, does this discussion have to be a meeting, and do I have to be there? Well, this
should have been an email.
I won't even most people at the company take a similar approach, and it leads to a situation where every meeting I attend ends up being a productive use of my time. The remainder of my day is spent on a variety of tasks, learning about other deployments, meeting new coworkers, or working on miscellaneous shared projects. That's interesting. Meeting new coworkers. Does he meet the new coworkers by email? Anyway, sorry. that was me attacking him for no reason.
He's saying daily video conference stand-ups often end up in yoga.
What are some of the technical challenges you encounter? Every FDSE, by the way, I still have yet to reach any of the SE problems he's talking about, tackles technical challenges on a day-to-day basis. Here are some examples of technical problems I've worked through during my time at Palantir. All right, here we go. He gives some bullet points. How do I build, scale, and maintain a terabyte scale data pipeline feeding a mission-critical operation workflow? I
wonder how old this article is. Okay, it's 2020. Like terabyte scale data pipelines are common now.
My intent was not to be hostile with this article, but the style of writing is making me hostile. It's giving me hives, the style of writing. Any flow of data on a long enough timeline is a terabyte scale pipeline. Just want to point that out. What does that mean? A mission critical operational flow.
He's talking about scaling things up is what I get out of this.
I think he's talking about the amount of data that comes into the pipeline. There are very few data pipelines I've ever worked with that don't get up to the terabyte level.
Exactly.
So, okay. How do I configure our platform to support specific data and workflow access controls for our customers based on unique regulatory and compliance requirements? Okay. Data and workflow access controls means if a U.S. person's data comes through the pipeline, you're not allowed to have that in there. So you need to be able to filter U.S. persons out of this data pipeline when we're analyzing the Middle East.
Yeah.
So what he's doing here, he's configuring specific data and workflow access controls. This is like, it's rules on a data pipeline. Like, this is not.
I would expect him to probably even be able to farm this out to a junior person. Seriously.
I don't know the economics of Palantir. So I don't know if they send one engineer to this site of like 500 people and say like, look how much we're supporting you. We have a full-time
resource.
A full-time resource. I'm like nails on a chalkboard. I'm trying to give Ohm the heebie-jeebies over here.
I'm getting that.
It's this language with the barely filter over the top of it. He says, does my solution encourage self-sufficient collaboration and discovery within the platform, unlocking additional value for the client? Is my solution flexible? Will it be resilient to modified access control requirements in the future? Okay, that was a lot of words. I don't know if any of them meant anything.
No.
How do I design, build, test, deploy, and maintain a unique workflow to allow a particular... Again, this goes back to the workwood product I was talking about. It seems very similar.
All he's doing is putting together workflows.
This is software configuration. This is not... I mean, this is like a... I would say like get a good start in software development as like a tester or like a help desk or something like that, and then transition over to this. Do this for a while, to do like highly technical work, very logical, highly technical work, and then do this for a while until an opening opens up on one of the software development teams. Then you move over to do real software development work where you're actually working in code.
Yeah.
It seems like a good career path.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it makes sense for somebody to, if they're coming into the field, to follow that path.
Yeah. He says he builds this workflow for non-technical customers to visualize and interact with high noise data. How can I generalize this feature to fold into the base platform so that other FDSEs and clients can benefit from my work? So he's configuring flows of data, a workflow for the data through the application. Okay, how do I investigate a production software outage, identify root cause of the issue, deploy a fix, and monitor the stack for stability while coordinating communication between product teams, our deployment team, and the customer? You put in trouble.
That's basically customer support work.
It's customer support work.
Yeah.
Okay. But he's not a sales engineer.
No, it's an FDSE.
What is the most challenging aspect of your role? Directing focus is challenging at times. Did he just say directing focus?
He did.
Given the ever-changing landscape of our products, capabilities, and our clients' needs, we are blessed with a nearly infinite number of problems to be solved. I need to consistently identify the most valuable thing to be working on, regardless of expertise or comfort level with the subject matter, and execute against it. Everything's on fire all the time is what it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, this is really, everyone does this, right? Prioritize what you're working on. He likes the variety of the role. Okay, good.
I'm amazed this got left in the corporate propaganda. Like you're so busy that the thing that you find most challenging is that everything's changing all the time. Like the software is changing all the time. The customer's priorities is changing all the time. The things you have access to is changing all the time. Knowing enterprise software like Gotham probably is, like the software and the configuration settings are probably changing under your feet. Like the sand is probably shifting under your feet all the time. And you probably don't get a lot of notice about it because of the size of Palantir.
So that could be exciting. Regulatory changes are there too.
I also don't like the politics shifting under your feet as well. It's probably happening in this company this size.
Right.
Anyway, he's going to wrap things up. He says, to wrap things up, what advice do you have for future squeeze? From a technical perspective, my advice is to learn to work with systems, architectures, and code bases you are not familiar with.
Really? That's revolutionary right there.
Revolutionary. He joined with
hardware background.
He had never worked on common software tools like Spark or microservice architectures. Really? You never worked with microservices? Wow. More generally, find a mentor and invest in a relationship with them. Having someone in your corner who you can turn to for guidance and ask for help in navigating a career is invaluable. This sounds like someone who works in a consultancy, I have to say. In a consultancy, you do need someone in your corner. You need someone to go back to. Yeah. And if you don't have that person in the consultancy, you're not going to last in that consultancy for very long. This was interesting. I really wanted to know more about this model because they've been blasting this model out. I watched a podcast recently where they were talking about this model. And on that particular podcast, I can't remember what it was, they were attributing a lot of success to this and portraying this role, the forward deployed software engineer. It was some kind of like monumental like breakthrough in thinking. And I was listening to it going, this sounds like what most smaller software firms do. They have a dedicated engineer to a big customer. They're willing to like whatever revenue it takes. Like it's strategic. So like a margin or revenue or whatever like doesn't count. Right. Making that customer happy is the most important thing.
This role of having people embedded with customers is nothing new. This goes back a long way.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know why this has suddenly become vogue as a role. It's just another dressed up sales engineer role, really, at least to me.
It's not a sales engineer. He says clearly in the article, it's not a sales engineer.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay, we believe them.
All right. If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe. Remember, every like counts. Every subscription counts. A comment on LinkedIn when I post the podcast, that helps too for our engagement. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
Awesome. This is great. Thank you all.
Sorry, I didn't read the comments here. I think all the people who have trouble understanding the gist of what Palantir does should read this blog post. It's excellent. Can I put my thoughts in here without creating an account?
Oh,
no, I have to create an
account.
account.
You have to create an account.
It's making me sign up for a Medium account. All right, here we go. We created an account on Medium for the Arguing Agile podcast. So now we get to comment. Here we go. Interesting read. We were so happy to create a podcast. You know what? I'm going to put a dash in here just so people think that this was written by ChatGPT. Here we go.
M dash. You need an M dash.
Oh, was it M dash, two dashes like this?
No. It's a single dash. It's a special character. You can do it in Word. And
I can't. Sorry, I'm typing with the keyboard on a laptop, so that's not going to work for me. However, we're chuckling at the we're not consultants. That's all right. Spell check's got me. Disclaimer followed by a description
of exactly what consultants do.
Exactly what consultants do. Betting with clients, solving their specific problems, and dealing with customer engagement. That's implementation 101. Honestly, I probably could stop there. That's enough heat right there. The position seems light. Sorry, I spell light Lite. Sorry.
That's how it is.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Light.
Sometimes on the podcast, I'm always like, that's the Queen's language. That's the way it works. Light. And I'm like, oh no. This position seems light on actual SWE work, like coding, architectural design, and building existing systems. Not that there is
wrong with that.
anything wrong being a specialized consultant. It's valuable work, and we've all been there. Here you go.
This is cool.
There you go. Respond.